Good morning, everyone. Right, let's get started then. Let us all bring our palms together to make veneration to the Buddha, the perfect one, the undefeated one, the unvanquished one. And as we make this mark of veneration, let us also remind ourselves that this is not a mere mark of veneration, but a reminder to ourselves of our purpose. This is a pledge of our allegiance to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, reminding ourselves why we are all here, with what purpose, with what objective. And with that in mind, let us chant the Namaskara. Let us seek refuge in the Noble Triple Gem, observe the precepts, and commence with today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. That was a long overdue duty and obligation. So, henceforth, we will invite the Devas before the start of the sermon. We must not forget that amongst them are those who we have come across and have been friends and family to us in this very long journey of samsara. In one way or the other, although we may not know it, there will be times and occasions where they come forward to protect us. They may not come and whisper in your ear and tell you what to do and what not to do. But there are ways and means in which they can extend their blessings. There will be times where you are surprised as to how certain things turned out in certain ways. There will be times where you will wonder how, when everything was going against you, maybe there were times where you escaped just by the narrowest of margins. And you might wonder, how did that ever happen? We don't necessarily have to come up with explanations for everything that meets our eye, but it is enough for us to know whether it is to protect us or not. There are sentient beings out there, devas out there, deities out there, who they themselves are in pursuit of Nibbana. So this is not a transaction. We invite you to the sermon, you look after us. It's not like that. We don't strike deals. This is the Sásana, right? There is no deal here. The only deal is we are all here for our salvation. And it is our duty to extend that to every sentient being to whom it is in their power to join us and enjoy this, experience this, and rejoice in this. Let us not forget that the Buddha and all his disciples did the same for us. Countless others have enjoyed the wisdom of the Buddha's teachings before us. Maybe when in the Buddha's time, we were just not meritorious enough to have been born human. Or in the blissful plane, in one way or another. And as a result of that, the Buddha came, he preached the Dhamma, he passed away. The Venerable Sariputta, the Venerable Moggallana, the Venerable Ananda Mahakāśyapa, they preached the Dhamma, they passed away. However, the tradition, the teaching, the culture of all that is aligned towards Nibbana still remain with us. And that is because countless monks, nuns, and the fourfold Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka and Upasika, the fourfold Sravakas, have made it and had made it their life's purpose to carry on and carry forward the Buddha's teaching and the Buddha's ministry. Just like what I am doing today, countless other monks and nuns, in whichever tradition, have carried this truth forward. And just like you are doing, countless others will follow in your footsteps. So it is the bringing together, the coming together of all those four individuals, the four types of individuals, the four types of Sravakas that make the Buddha's ministry still as effective as it was back then, still as potent as it was back then, still as productive as it was back then. There's no reason for any of us to think that it is only back then Arahants were born, Sakradagamis, Anagamis and Sotapannas were born. Even to this day, ladies and gentlemen, that is possible. The Dhamma is just as powerful, the Dhamma is just as true, and the truth is just as prevalent. So there is no reason for us to think that our time is now gone, that the ministry has come towards its end. Therefore, attaining these noble fruits is now out of our reach. It is not so. There's only one qualification, and that is that you are alive. I trust you all are. So that being true, there is no reason to hesitate. No reason to hesitate. And every reason to just go for it. So with vigor, with determination, resolve, strength of mind, and always a renewed sense of purpose, every day, every Sunday, come with a renewed sense of purpose. Like this is the first day that you arrive here. Every day, move yourself 1 inch, 1 microcentimeter, that's enough, forward. Before you know it, miracles will start to happen and things will begin to change for you and the people around you. You don't need to take my word for it because you know that this is happening in your lives already. People would have wished for you to be absent at home, but now people wish for you to be at home. Perhaps there have been times when you were the curse at home, but now you are a blessing at home. Am I right? Don't ask me, Swaminathan, ask her. It has to be true. It has to be true. And you must experience that it feels better to be you. Not you as in you as jati. I mean, it's just, if you can feel that peace of mind, it just feels better to be alive than what you used to be. If you take yourself back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and what it felt like to be you, you're still the same you, but it feels better, feels lighter. Does it not? Yeah. That's because remorse, regret, all these emotions that always used to weigh you down, burden you, they're beginning to disappear. Temptations that always got the better of you, that always drove you to do things that you didn't like, but you just had to. As they say, the mind is willing but the flesh is weak. So not true. It's the other way around. The flesh is always willing to comply, but the mind always wants to have it its own way. There was never a time where the arm went forward and opened the fridge. It was not the arm that did that. That was your mind. Innocent arm always got the blame for it. Were there times where you extended this arm and the other arm went, no, don't do that. There was never a time you had to do that. It was always the mind that wanted it. And you know the things that desire ever got you to do, lust got you to do, greed got you to do, anger, the worst of them, isn't it? Got you to do. Hatred in some cases. Maybe before the Dhamma touched your lives, ladies and gentlemen, there were people who you could never even consider forgiving. But I trust there are now many hatchets you have borrowed. A lot of water under the bridge. You must be feeling now that peace, that serenity that comes with that. It just feels better to be you. I hope, I really hope, it feels better to be you. See, this evolution happens in 3 stages. At the very beginning, You hate being yourself. When you can't take it anymore, that's when people just want to off it themselves. They just can't take it anymore. They just hate being themselves. Because life is just too much. It's not life that's too much, it's their response to life that is too much, and they can't get over it. They can't handle themselves. They don't know how to do that. Life is never too much, but one's response to life. If one's response to life is not positive, then whenever things happen around you, you always feel like you're the victim. This self-victimization, which pretty much all of us are guilty of at one time or the other in our lives. Self-victimization. The past always haunts you, doesn't it? At least used to, the past. And the future always brings worry and fear. What might? So when there's so much of it to bear, to tolerate, then life just becomes impossible. That's when people consider, is it worth living like this anymore? And suicide rates are going up around the world. Technology has not been able to fix that problem. The TV has not been able to fix that problem. When I was young, we only had, I think, 6 channels on TV. Now they have 600. Suicide rates have just gone up. So there is no direct relationship between number of TV channels and suicide rates. There's no correlation. So then that must convince people that more TV channels does not mean people are happier. See, every year as we progress, new artists, they come out and release new albums, don't they? So if you want to listen to really like artists of the old, right? So they're still great. Your grandfather's time, your great-grandfather's time, when they had those things on, what do you call them? Spinning discs. The what? Gramophone, yes. The vinyl records, right? They're still there. If you want them, you can listen to them. And then in the modern era, you have digital music. So every year you have new artists. New artists meaning new albums, right? So there's never a shortage of new music or music for that purpose, because in music, the amount of music that's available to humanity only keeps on growing, expanding. We have a lot more choice than our mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers, and then their parents did, right? It's choice galore. We have so much choice. Then that's just music. What about films? With every year that we advance as a human race, do we have fewer films or more films? Of course, it just keeps getting added to the list, right? Every year there's a top 100. Must watch before you die. Do you have a must watch before you die list? I'm sure you used to. And there are databases which have this information. People go and put their ratings, and then you read the ratings and make sure you get it added to your list. Then those days you only used to be films, now they have TV series. So, spoiled for choice. Teledramas, which you can always watch on YouTube. They all get on YouTube. So, do we have less choice or more choice than we used to? It's not really even worth asking that question, right? So the amount of choice that's available to us as a humankind is just humongous. But the amount of happiness that we experience compared to our grandparents, great-grandparents, if you ask them, and how simple their lives were, yet how fulfilled they were, how happy they were. See, these two things seem to be moving in opposite directions. Not just moving, but accelerating in opposite directions. We are more interconnected with each other now. Those days, satellite was only a technology in fantasy books, science fiction. Now, satellite is available at a domestic scale. So wherever you are, whenever you want, you can connect yourself to the other side of the world. We have become such a close-knit community, not just our hometown, not just your village, but every human being on this planet. There's hardly anyone who doesn't have a mobile phone in their hands. We are so connected to each other. There's connection, but there's no fulfillment. There's no contentment. Again, they're accelerating in opposite directions. So we must be missing a trick somewhere. This is the point I'm trying to make. Every year they bring out new dishes because culinary science, and they invent new dishes. Chefs around the world, they cook up, they invent, they discover new flavors, right? New fusion of new flavors. Those days you had Indian, you had Mongolian, you had Chinese, right? You had those very distinct. And if you wanted to eat one type, you had to go to one restaurant. But now, that is not so. You can go to just about any restaurant, and what they have is fusion. So they bring the best of one cuisine with the best of another, and every day there's new experiments going on in the restaurants, in the kitchens around the world, and you can be sure as anything that tomorrow, if you just go online and type it in, a new kind of food will have been invented for you to try out. See, again, accelerating in one direction, but happiness, contentment, fulfillment, that's going in the opposite direction. Don't you realize, ladies and gentlemen, that people are coming up with the wrong answer to the problem? More music, more films, more TV, more food, more dance, more TV, none of these things are the answer. Money helps you buy all these things and build a world around you. Completely enclose yourself with all of these sensual delights. But where is true fulfillment? Where is that happiness? Where is that contentment that we seem to have lost? So there has to be a day in your lives you realize that happiness does not come through these, through this. It does not come through that. Your 5 senses are not 5 happy doors. They are 5 sense doors. They don't bring happiness. Some people might even think that it's just unfortunate that we only have 2 pairs of eyes. If people could have it their way, I believe if people could have it their way, if we gave everyone a wish, what would you like? People might say, can I have a pair of eyes in the back of my head so I can see more? Maybe another pair of ears so I can hear more? No, another tongue? So that you can try 2 dishes at the same time. Then you don't have to wait until you finish one mouthful. You can just bung in the other one while you're eating the first one. Like, people like to experiment things together, right? That's why you have these condiments. Ketchup, mustard, what else do you have? Brown sauce, right? You have all these things. So you can try different combinations. So it's not enough to have ice cream and then have fruit. What do you need to have? Fruit salad and ice cream. That has to go together. So you can't have your jelly, ice cream, and fruit salad. What must you do? Fusion. Bring it all together, then have it and see what that feels like. This is not a need that we used to have. We didn't do so much with food back then. But this is this insatiable appetite that people have. Not appetite in the stomach, but appetite in the mind. It's insatiable. It's literally insatiable. Otherwise, let's think about it. By this point, shouldn't we really be satisfied as a human race? There's so much choice out there. So much choice. How satisfied must we be? But we just cannot be. Because we are looking for a solution in the wrong place. If you wear your glasses on your head, No matter how much you look around in your house, you're not going to find it because it's on your head. So you've got to stop and look for it on you. That's when you'll seek it. That's when you'll find it. And this is why, after having lived for that many years, you have come to these sermons still looking for happiness. Truth be told, if happiness was available in all those experiences that you've had in your life, I should have no one attend these sermons. I should be the only one who turns up, no one in the audience. But the fact is, there's always people. What does that tell us? All of these avenues that you have walked, all these pursuits that you have been on, all those experiences that you have tried, not just here. Haven't you traveled the world? When you thought happiness is not in Sri Lanka, where did you choose to go? You travel the world. It's in some people's bucket list, right? To travel to every country there is before I die. And not just travel, but to experience what's there. To watch all the waterfalls, to go to all to see the birds and animals, to go on all the safaris, try out all the different kinds of food and music and dance and culture and all these things, because hopeful that one day, someday, in some part of this world, I'm sure God has planted happiness and I'm going to find it somehow or the other. The funny thing is, though, happiness is closer to home than you imagine. It's much closer to home. Where is happiness? Exactly. It's right where you are. So until the day comes where you stop looking for it outside, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say, you are not going to find it. Because you are too busy trying to go after it, that you don't realize that it was always with you. So, what does Buddhism help you do then? I don't have happiness to offer you. So that's what I'm saying. What we are so accustomed with is going around places, to the restaurants, to the theaters, to the concerts, right, to the galleries, to try and find happiness, right? I don't want you to think that this is another place where you can come to find happiness. It is not. This is not another gallery. This is not another cinema hall. This is not another performance. Here, what you will learn is that happiness does not exist in any of those places because happiness has always been with you. That's the difference. Happiness has always been with you. I, for one, used to go on these. I used to love to go to theme parks when I was younger. Just the rush of adrenaline as you would go up the roller coaster and then it brings it down safely, right? Just that tension and then the relaxation that comes after that. That gave me the kick that I wanted. That was how I got mine. But this is not another theme park. By this I mean the Sásana, it's not another theme park. So expect not what you expected when you went into the last restaurant from here. Because that happiness that you got there was not happiness at all, really. It was merely relief from vexation. It is what we call pleasure. The difference between pleasure and happiness is, to experience pleasure, you have to vex. There's something you have to do for that. To experience happiness, you need not do anything. There's no expense. Therefore, no cost to happiness. Happiness is yours. So that is the philosophy of happiness. That is what Buddhism teaches us. It's what any religion teaches you, if it's the truth that they preach. Pretty much every religion teaches the truth, but people struggle to understand the truth behind those words. They struggle to understand the truth behind the parables. They struggle to understand the truth behind the prayers, behind the mantra. So life is not difficult. Your response to life is difficult. It can be if you don't know how to respond correctly. So that's what we're here to study. Now, last week I asked you a question. Who are you? Have you figured it out now? Who you are? I want to take the conversation one step forward today. And really try and understand why the mind is insatiable. Why is it that you cannot be content with anything? Why is it that even after having spent 24 hours today, you look forward to waking up tomorrow morning? Why? Why does the promise of tomorrow excite you so much? The promise of tomorrow. Why is it when your birthday gets closer, you get excited? Why is it if you have a friend or someone of the family give you a call and say, we're going to be coming over tomorrow or this evening, that excites you? Why does that make you happy? These are questions that riddle us. Perhaps you don't worry too much about why it happens, but if you really want to understand how the mind works and how you work, these are questions that you need to find answers to, ladies and gentlemen. We know by now how the mind arises, don't we? In very simple terms, let's take one of the senses. The eye is as good as anyone. Can you see the board from the back? Is the projector on? Okay. You have an object. An object meets the eye. And a chitta is born. This is all that happens. But we know that these chittas are born, that when these chittas are born, they are born in an environment which is laden with ignorance. That's the problem. Ignorance. Ignorance that there are experiences worth having. That pleasure exists in the outside world, and that pleasure is something that is worth having. This is what ignites your desire to experience through your five senses. The eyes don't want to see. They see, but they don't want to see. So your eyes are quite comfortable being shut, but who's not? Their owner is not. Who's their owner? That's the one you're thinking of. That's the one. Your ears are quite comfortable not listening or not hearing anything. They don't want to hear. They can hear, but they don't want to hear. But there is someone who wants to hear, and that is the owner. The same can be said about your tongue. Your tongue can taste, but it doesn't want to taste. Doesn't want to taste. Doesn't want to taste. It has no desire to taste, but it can taste. But the tongue is attached to a mind, and in that mind you have ignorance. This ignorance ignites the desire to taste. So then none of your senses are responsible for your vexations. So whenever you want to see, don't ever point your finger at your eyes and say, Can't help it, Swami. These guys, they're always turning left and right. They always want to see things. I want to go and sleep, but no, they want to see. I didn't want to look at that girl, but they turned and they looked at the girl. It wasn't me. So don't you, wasn't me. The eyes don't want to see. That's why it's wrong to say that the mind is willing but the flesh is weak. It is not the flesh that is weak. The flesh has no desire. Flesh is just flesh. Flesh is just formed of the four great elements, and they have no desire. Ignorance is the root of desire. Your flesh cannot have desire because it is formed of the four great elements, which is not rooted in desire, in ignorance. So then when your eyes or your ears or your nose or your tongue or the rest of your body, when there are times where you feel like it's, like you're itching to see, have you experienced those times? You're itching to see. You know the feeling, right? When you're itching to see or itching to hear. Have you had that experience? Thank you. At least some of us are honest. I know you're all like that. But some are voluntary. Yes, yes, I know the feeling. Yes, when you're itching to see. That's how you used to tease your friends, remember, at school and so on. If you had something in your hand and you covered it from everyone, I have something, I'm not going to show you. See how much they used to tease you? I've got something, I'm not going to show you. I'm going to show it to Tina, I'm going to show it to Nisha, I'm going to show it to Anita, but I'm not going to show it to you. So if you were that you, what happened then? How vexed did you feel at that time? And then in the end, they open their palm and there's nothing. See, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not what that you are bothered about. It's the fact that you want to see, even if it's nothing. That's, the mind is it's not the mind alone, but because of ignorance, it becomes so weak, so fragile, so vulnerable. Just think about it, ladies and gentlemen. You walk into a room and two people are whispering at each other's ear, and then they go, shh, she's here. What's the next thing you want to know? What's the next thing you want to know? What they were talking about. How many times were you fooled, were you deceived? Just because two people did that. They were not talking about anything, really, but they just wanted to mess with you. And you got caught. You were the victim of that because you want to hear, you want to know, curiosity. Have you ever seen a curious eye? A curious eye? Or a curious ear? A curious tongue? There are no curious eyes, ears, nose, tongues, or bodies. What are there? There's only one curious thing, and that is a curious mind. The desire to know. So I can just imagine this conversation is going to unfold into a very profound sermon today, I think. Let's see where it goes. The mind is curious. Curious to know. To know is to perceive. If you remember last week, I think it was, we talked about the difference between an arahant and a non-arahant. What is the difference between this mind and this one? Here's the arahant, here's the non-arahant. What is the difference? This one's smaller than this one. This can perceive, this can also perceive, this wants to perceive, this has no desire to perceive. That is the difference. So the difference between you and an arahant, in the fewest possible words, ladies and gentlemen, is the desire to perceive. That's it. So what are you? I am the desire to perceive. You could put it like that. That is what you are, the desire to perceive. Everything else stems from that. Differences, comparisons, all of that stems from the desire to perceive. It's very interesting, this. So much so that you could identify yourself as the desire to perceive, because you are the mind, and you know this. We talked about who you are, and one of the first things we had tackled was the body, right? But soon after we started talking about it, you realize that there's no point identifying yourself as a body, because the body is just formed of the same stuff that everyone else is formed of. Yeah? And then all the things that you have, your possessions, you cannot be defined by your possessions, because there are others who can also claim that they're also part of that possession. So it cannot be something that you can use to define yourself. And the same goes for your name. That is what we started with last week. There are many others who have the same name as you, the same parents as you, the same siblings as you, the same street on which you live, right? So there are all these possessions that you have, which other people can also lay claims to. Therefore, that is not something you can use to define yourself. We talked about the body. The body is not something you can use to define yourself, because what is the body for you is food to earthworms. You just have to die, and then you'll see. Or to a predator. So, that is the thing. Then we came to the mind. So now we are trying, if you want to define yourself on the basis of your thoughts, your perceptions, the day you become an arahant, you can say that I am the ability to perceive. You can define yourself as the ability to perceive the day you become an arahant, but not yet. Today, if someone asks you, what are you? You will have to say the desire to perceive. I am the desire to perceive. So then we have a question. Why is there a desire to perceive? You see, and why are we interested in that question? What's the difference between these two things? The arahant and the non-arahant? Or you? The desire to perceive, right? So, do you all want to become arahants one day? Yes? Still? Good. So, if you wish to become an arahant one day, an arahant is just the ability to perceive, whereas you are the desire to perceive. Okay? So, what must happen for you to make that shift? Take away the ability to perceive or the desire to perceive? The desire to perceive. So if you were able to eradicate, seize the desire to perceive, then all of a sudden, lo and behold, you are an arahant. Simple as that. See how easy it is to become an arahant. How many sermons have you been coming to now? Time wasters. See how easy it is to become an arahant. All you have to do is to seize the desire to perceive. That's it. Okay? Right, then do that, okay? Right, let's do the merit transfer. If only, isn't it, Swami? You know, sir? If only. If only it was so easy. See, the task at hand is simple. It's just difficult to do. It's not complicated, it's subtle. That's the thing. So then, to make this shift, the question we have to ask ourselves now then, why is there a desire to perceive? You got to get to the root cause. Because if you can identify, discover why there is a desire to perceive, and validate those reasons, whether they're actually valid, Right? Do we wish to perceive for something, for some valid reason, for some legitimate reason? Or is it just nonsensical to want to perceive? If you can figure out the reason you wish to perceive, the reason that you have a desire to perceive, and then eradicate that cause or cease that, the desire to perceive will exterminate, will extinguish. And then all you will be left with is the ability to perceive. So then I have the question back to you again. Why is there a desire to perceive? Let's think about that. Let's talk about that. Why do we have a desire to perceive? You're all convinced that you have a desire to perceive. You sure? Shall I tell you something? Can I tell you something? There you go. Say you wish to perceive. That's why the moment I ask you that question, you're like, yes. I could have done the same and said, can I show you something? I said, yes. If someone's phone goes off, what happens to our heads? The very reason I say switch those phones off or keep them on silent is so that you're not distracted, right? So you can pay attention to the sermon, right? So someone's phone goes off. What does everyone else want to do now? If it was your phone, I can understand it because you have to get your phone out and put it on mute or whatever, silent, and put it to a side. But if it's not your phone, the very thing I'm trying to avoid. So it was not the phone going off that distracted you, really, because after the phone went off, you could have just continued listening to the sermon, not turning your head around, just paying your attention to what's on the board. But what do? Whose phone is it? Whose phone is it? Whose phone is it? Is it your phone? Is it your phone? Now you're doing a 360, trying to find out whose phone it was. That is your distraction. It's not the phone going off. The phone is not the distraction. This is the distraction. Curiosity. Who? Who to you? Who is your curiosity? Where is that phone? Whose phone is it? And if it goes off a second time, this woman, can't she just put her phone on? Now, let's say the sound came from the right to the back of the room. Right? So well and truly, even if you turned your head around, you wouldn't be able to see whose phone it was, right? Because there are 200 people in this hall. But still, when you hear that, you have to turn your head around. And so it is. If someone walks in through these doors, as glamorous as I might look, and as interesting as the sermon might be, there's something far more interesting at that time. That is, who just walked in through the door? Curiosity. These are the distractions. It's not the phone, it's not the person walking through the door. Your curiosity is your distraction. Because there's a need to perceive. See? That very need actually distracts you from becoming the Arahant. Just imagine if the next word I was going to say was the word that you were looking for this whole 120 sermons. You were waiting for that one word to help you understand Nibbana, and the moment someone walked in through the door, you look that way, I utter the word. And then you miss it. Or is the next word I'm about to say and someone's phone goes off and now you're too busy trying to figure out whose phone went off, and then I utter the word and you turn on, sorry, what were you saying, Swami Nahansa? You can't ask me to repeat because you're in the audience and I'm here and I can't hear you. So we just carry on. So now you have to wait for another 200 sermons before that word gets uttered again. It's not the phone that distracts. It's not the phone that distracts. It's your curiosity. If you were like in the middle of the high street, you'd have to watch around, look around to make sure that vehicles were not running and you were not going to get run over. But we are in the safety of a Dhamma hall, right? Unless the roof falls above falls on your head, or the floor collapses, right? There is no need to be distracted. Now, no matter how many times I say this, the next time the phone goes off, what are you all going to do? Like it was your religion. But don't worry, I don't label you, I don't judge you, because I understand how minds work. I understand how minds work, and I understand that for as long as ignorance is there in the mind, there is curiosity. You can't help it, right? So curiosity will always get the upper hand. Okay? So the next time a phone goes off, you will turn and then you realize, got it again. And then slowly, without Swaminathan seeing you, you'll make like micro adjustments. Or pretend that it was something else you were looking for. Where's that bottle? I just want to drink of water. Two can play that game. It's okay, okay? Seriously, it's okay. It's okay to be you, right? I understand you because I understand myself. Right? We are all in the same boat here. I'm not on some kind of a pedestal here. You have put me on the stage, that's why I'm up here. And I'm preaching the Dhamma to you. If you were the one preaching the sermon to us now, I would be there, you'd be here, and the roles would be switched. The Dhamma is the only refuge. The Buddha is the only refuge. The Sangha is the only refuge. Right? So just because I point out your weaknesses, your faults, and your flaws does not mean that there's someone perfect in this room right now. Okay? So nothing to be embarrassed of, just something to be aware of. And realize this is how the mind works. What we need to achieve is mastery of the mind. That's what we need. Mastery. Master the mind, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what you are. Your happiness is entirely and completely and wholly in your mind. So master your mind. This is what this class is about. How do we master the mind? Master our thought processes. So the shift from this to this then is in uprooting the desire to perceive. Which brings us back to the question, why do we have this desire to perceive? Now this explanation is going to be a little bit subtle, but if you pay attention, there's no reason why any of you would not be able to understand it. Including you though, yes. You can also understand this. Ignorance is knowledge, but bad knowledge. There's two types of knowledge. Knowledge is to know, right? So you can either know the truth or you can know a falsehood. They're both knowledge. Ignorance is also knowledge. Bad knowledge, when you're in a state of bad knowledge, when the knowledge that you have is bad, it's rotten, it's foul, it's wrong, it's incorrect, that's when we say it's a state of ignorance. The mind is in a state of ignorance. When the mind has good knowledge, the truth, what is right, we call that wisdom. We call that wisdom. So the mind is in one of these two states. It is either in a state of ignorance or it's in a state of wisdom. From ignorance stems curiosity, the desire to perceive. So ignorance is simply the state of mind where there is bad knowledge. So when we talk about the Buddhist philosophy and what we've been talking about as of late, let's make sure we know what this good knowledge and bad knowledge are. What is good knowledge? Anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Anicca, dukkha, and anatta is good knowledge. Meaning, this is the truth about the world. These are characteristics, ladies and gentlemen. Anicca is a characteristic. Dukkha is also a characteristic. Anatta is a characteristic. So the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha and anatta, if your mind bears these three characteristics, then your mind bears good knowledge about all conditioned things. So, of what are these three characteristics? Conditioned things. These are the three characteristics of conditioned things. Name one conditioned thing. See, this is a conditioned thing. It's conditioned. Anything you see is a conditioned thing. Any experience you have is a conditioned experience. Everything is a conditioned thing. It is conditioned. In the Pali they call it a sankata. Conditioned. All conditioned things are of this characteristic. These three characteristics are true of all conditioned things. Just like we say, all matter has weight or mass. For weight there has to be gravity. Let's say all matter has mass, right? In the same vein, you could say all conditioned things have these three characteristics. Okay, so if that's good knowledge, what is bad knowledge? What is bad knowledge? Nicca, Sukha and Atta. Nicca, Sukha and Atta. They are also characteristics. Just as these three are characteristics, so are they. They're also characteristics. But why do we call it bad knowledge? Because these are wrong characteristics. In other words, this is not true. Nature is not a true characteristic of any conditioned thing. Sukha is not a true characteristic of any conditioned thing. And Atta is also not a true characteristic of any conditioned thing. So if it's not true, why are we talking about it then? Is it not just the truth we have to talk about, anicca, dukkha and anatta? Why are we even talking about nicca, sukha and atta? Why are we talking about it? We're talking about it because your minds currently bear these three characteristics and you think it is the truth. You think this is how the world is currently. Nicca, sukha and atta. Therefore we say the mind is ignorant. If we can replace Nicca, Sukha and Atta, which is knowledge, this is also knowledge, this is also knowledge, right? They're both knowledge. If we can replace this Nicca with anicca, Sukha with dukkha, and Atta with anatta, if we can replace them, now we have just replaced bad knowledge with good knowledge, and then we say the mind is with wisdom. So this is the mind. This is knowledge. Is that clear to everyone? So far, so good? Why are we talking about this again then? This is what we think the world is right now. Nicca, Sukha and Atta. This is our mistake. We are fooled. It's when you get something wrong, like when you get the time wrong, like when your batteries start to die, right? When your batteries drain, right? Then what happens to the clock? It slows down, right? So sometimes there'll be days where you wake up and you realize, oh, it's still 3 o'clock. Fall back asleep. And you wake up again, still 3 o'clock. Still got time. Next thing you know, your boss is ringing you, asking you why you're not at the office. That's when you realize it's 10:30. And then your excuse is, sorry, batteries ran out. Am I the only one who's had that experience? Well, there you know. So just like when you have the bad, that's bad knowledge, isn't it? Then if you read the time and you got the time from the clock, that's bad knowledge. So if you operate on bad knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, you operate on ignorance. Your mind is in a state of ignorance, and when your mind is in a state of ignorance, the product of that mind is suffering. That is what suffering stems from. Suffering is never a product of wisdom. Never. So if and when your mind is in a state of suffering, or you experience any kind of suffering, name some. Fear, anger, jealousy, greed, lust, right? Disappointment, expectations. These are all frustrations, annoyance, right? All of these things are examples of suffering. Do you like to be in those states? Of course not. Who likes to be angry? No one does. So then you must know this. If and when your mind is in a state of suffering, any one of those states, that is a telltale sign that your mind is ignorant at that time, meaning the knowledge that the mind has at that time is that the world is Nicca, Sukha and Atta. Whose fault is that? Swaminathan says, because every Sunday you go to the sermon, but he still hasn't taught you that the world is Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. It's my fault. It's not you, it's me. It's never you. What about when you're happy? You're happy and you know it? Well, clap your hands. When you're happy about something, like say you've just been given a birthday gift, or someone's brought you your favorite chocolate, or a nice bouquet of flowers, someone's given you a gift, or you just got a promotion, or someone's just called you sir, or madame, then you feel happy. Or someone gives you, you get into the bus or the train and someone offers their seat to you. And you feel happy. What about then? Surely that's when the mind is in wisdom. Yes? Yes? Ah, good. So you have been listening to the sermons. I thought I'd catch you with that one, but no, now you're better than that. Well done. Good, excellent. I like the fact that you gave the right answer there. Happiness is not on this side of the equation, or rather pleasure is not on this side of the equation. Pleasure is also up here. Because what is pleasure after all? Suffering or vexation and then relief from that is pleasure. This is relief. So you're thirsty, you're tired, someone gives you a nice glass of water. Or someone offers their seat to you. You're worried about your exam results and someone says, hey, you got a pass, an A pass. Oh, yay, happy. So it's relief. Or you're waiting for your test results. Say you've got some medical test, checkups done, and you're waiting for your results. And then they say it's all clear, all good. What happens then? Relief. All in the realms of this. See? So don't be fooled to think that when you're happy, rather, when you're feeling pleasure, you're having a good time, right? Things are all going in your favor, right? Your friends are being friends to you, being friendly to you. Your relations are being nice, good relations to you. Mother-in-law is being extra nice to you, right? At those moments, don't be fooled to think that you are a sage, right? That is not a time when there is wisdom. That's a time when the mind is still ignorant. Because it's still a moment where the mind seeks happiness, pleasure, with association from the outside world. Still the mind thinks that the world is Nicca, Sukha and Atta. See, I have one point to prove this to you, which is undeniable. If you're ever in a state of pleasure, okay? If you're ever in a state of, say, a good mood, or even if you want to call it happiness, if you're in a state of happiness, but in the back of your mind you're worried how long it might last. Isn't that typical of when you're having a good time? You just go, fingers crossed. Huh? I hope that this lasts for as long as it can be. When you're with your loved ones, when someone's come down from, say, they've gone abroad to live there or do studies or whatever, they've come down for a short holiday. How long do you want that holiday to last? Forever and forever and forever and forever. Until they become a pain in the back, and then you just want them gone. Right? That happens. Why does that happen? Why does that happen actually? Because how do you get this pleasure? Out of relief from vexation. So after you've completely relieved yourself of all that vexation, from there on, it's not pleasure anymore. It's not pleasure anymore. So how do we know that, how do we tell the difference between pleasure and happiness? Pleasure and true happiness. You tell the difference, ladies and gentlemen, by asking yourself this one question. Do I want this to last? Am I worried that this might have an expiry date? Am I worried that this happiness might not be with me forever? Are you fearful that something might threaten your happiness? That something might take it from you? Then that is not happiness at all. That is still very much on this side of the fence. Don't be fooled by that. So I've given a very classic example. You ask her, she says no. You ask her again, she says no. You ask her again, she says no. On the 10th time, she says, I'll see. Think about it. Then on the 250th time, she says, okay. Now you feel like you won something. Right? So then, but you now still have to get her parents' consent. So she says, you got to go talk to my dad. If he says yes, I'm okay. So now the big day. You have to go ask her dad. How do you feel about that? Gents? Don't you feel that there's a threat now? Because the whole thing could be turned upside down, right? With one answer from the dad. So you go talk to the dad. Dad, and he says, don't dad me. Don't dad me. I'm not your dad yet. What do you want? He asks. So then, you do that, right? And then you have to ask the question. As you ask the question, now she's already said yes, she likes you, she's happy, but you have to jump over another hurdle. So at that point, you're worried, you're threatened, the threat that your happiness might be stolen from you. If that is ever possible, the possibility, please understand, it is not on this side of the fence you are. You are still on the other side. Many years ago, we won the war, didn't we? Who won the war? We won the war, did we? And they lost it, did they? Wars are never won. Wars are never won, and neither are they lost. Because every winner is still under threat. You never know when that victory might be taken from you. So you can never actually win a war. To actually win a war, you have to be able to give up what it is you are fighting for. Then you have won. You see the difference, ladies and gentlemen? See, I have this pen in my hand. Let's say we fought over this and I won it. Now it's mine. And you're watching me, right? Because who knows, you might want to snatch it back from me, by hook or by crook, who knows? Tell me, when can I fall asleep now? When can I allow myself to fall asleep? Can I? Why not? Because you might take it from me. So can you truly say that I'm happy? I'm not happy. How can I be happy? Because I'm always worried. There's fear. So if there's fear that comes with a certain kind of happiness, that cannot be on this side, can it? Fear has no room here. This has to be untainted happiness, pure happiness, untarnished, unconditional happiness. See, this happiness now is conditioned. I'm happy for as long as I keep it, I have it, and you don't take it from me. Then I must always be vigilant, on guard. Who knows when you might come and take it from me? Therefore, I always feel threatened. That's why I say we never won the war, because we still feel threatened. Whoever won the war, they feel threatened. Just imagine there's a hoo-ha going around that there's an uprising, the Elam, there's an uprising. Now what happens again? People start to get worried. So what have we really won? Nothing. That's why true victory is not in acquiring whatever it is your mind fancies. It's in your ability to give up. Once you give up, now it doesn't matter who takes it. It is only now I can actually fall asleep. Because now I'm peaceful. Always define your happiness by those terms, ladies and gentlemen. Make a list of the things in your mind, the things that you think are your source of happiness, and 9 times out of 10, actually 9.9 times out of 10, no, 9.99999 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, what you will realize is that they're all on this side. Think about it for a second, whether that is not true. Think about some things that you're really happy about. Happy because you have possession of them. Let's start with your house. You have a house, you have a home to live. Big or small, you have a house. But that's a conditioned thing, isn't it? So anything could happen. I'm not talking necessarily about a meteor crashing onto your house. What are the chances? But anything could happen. Take your car. How can you be a proud car owner? Because at the moment you pull your car out onto the street, what are you? Tensed. Can you fall asleep? Don't try it, but you know you can't. Let's say you drove your car, you and your family went to a hotel somewhere to spend the weekend, okay, and your car is now in the car park. You can't sleep that night peacefully because you know it's out in the car park. And then if you hear a few, some people making some noise in the middle of the night, some bottles crashing, right? Or some arguments outside, right? What would you do then? You'll get out of bed, draw back your curtains if you can, and see where your car is and whether it's safe. But you say that you are a proud car owner. You have the car, yes, and you were very happy when you acquired your car, but along with that happiness came this huge worry. And you always live in what if, what if, what if. It's like going on in the back of your mind. What if, what if. Anything and everything you think of, there's a what if going on in the back of your mind. What if, what if, what if. What if what? The possibilities are endless, right? What if someone takes it? What if someone crashes into it? What if someone scratches it? See, so many what ifs. So the only way to be happy about a car is to not own one. That's the only way to be happy about a car, to not own one. Okay, take another example then. Now, you're in a job. Most of you, you're in a, let's say it's a permanent job. But there's news about redundancies. Now, when they had the financial turmoil some years ago, I remember particularly well this because I was in the banking sector back then when the whole financial system came to a crash, and there was a lot of talk about redundancies and all that. So this job that people loved and they cherished and had known that it was in their possession, they were very happy to have, all of a sudden there were a lot of threats coming to them from all angles. You know, whatever job you're in, you have to perform, mustn't you? Otherwise you get the sack. So even if it's your job, you still have to get to work on time. If you have to be there Monday to Friday, you have to be there Monday to Friday. How many times can you stay at home? How many days can you go in late? Then fear again starts to come in. And then if some other smart guy comes into the office and he's smarter than you in many ways, now you're threatened now, because now the boss begins to think that he's better than you or she's better than you, then you feel threatened. If you feel that there are other people vying for your job, then you feel threatened. If there are job cuts, you feel threatened, because what if it's your job that gets the hack? Again, this is all on this side of the fence. Take your children for an example. Whenever you hear that there's problems going on, teenagers getting into all sorts of problems, when there's drugs and alcohol and child abuse and various things on the news, now you're worried. You know, just take a very simple example. You have a daughter. Okay, she's come of age, and she's at that time where she's getting interested in the world around her. Let's keep it there. And next door, new neighbors have moved in, and there's a bloke, there's a guy who's about the age of your daughter, maybe just 1 or 2 years elder, and he's whenever you walk that way, he's standing by the fence, looking at her, and she's now beginning to take some interest. Isn't that going to bring fear into your minds? Aren't you going to start to feel worried about it? And then one day, if you see him passing a piece of paper to her or something, then what might happen then? Then you want to know what it is. What if then, around that time, you walked into your daughter's bedroom, right? And she's doodling in her notebook. Just casually. She's just doodling stuff. None of this happened before they moved in. So now, how are you going to feel as a mother or a father? See, this side or that side? Of course, on that side. You know, when you get back home, go into his or her bedroom, take some of their exercise books, turn to the back pages and see what they have doodled there. There'll be some things in there that will really worry you. Maybe there'll be some phone numbers with no names, or phone numbers with like codes, like X. No actual name, just like a code, X32. As a parent, can you turn a blind eye? Or are you not now curious? The next thing you will do when you get, Puta, come here. Who is this? And let's say her name is Tina. Okay? Tina. And then there's another initial next to that, which is not her surname. J. Next to the heart. Or it can also be on the heart. You figure that she's T from the Tina. J is not her surname. So now you have a problem. You have a concern. You have a worry now. You're happy that you have a child. You're happy that she's a very good daughter. He's a very good son. But now there's worry, fear, because there's a what if. There's always a what if in your mind. Because all that happiness is not really happiness at all. You're living on this is what we call fool's paradise. This seems like paradise, but it's not the wise man's paradise, it's a fool's paradise. All because of bad knowledge. See, bad knowledge leads to ignorance, ignorance leads to suffering, and along with suffering you have relief from suffering and you get pleasure. This is all you've ever known, ladies and gentlemen. This is all you've ever known. This is all I've ever known. This is all we've ever known. This side of the fence we didn't even know existed. We were blind to the truth. That's why we were weary, that's why we were burdened, that's why we had nightmares, both during the day and at night. That's why we had sleepless nights. That's why people get depressed. That's why people get anxious. That's why people get nervous. They have nervous breakdowns. All of that stuff on this side. See, as I say these things, I want you to go into your lives. Right? Turn back a few pages, a few chapters of your life and have a read. And you'll see, to think of your diary, dear diary. Turn a few pages back and see what you have in your dear diary. All those sleepless nights, all those worries, all those troubles, all those arguments, all those fights that you had at home. No one else knows, don't worry, you don't. All because you were looking for happiness on this side. And the other thing is this, for you to be happy, typically someone else must be unhappy. There's a reason for that. Because usually, when there's a resource, and it's that resource that makes you happy, for you to be in possession of it, someone has to let go of it. Usually that is the case. Do you think your boss enjoys giving you your paycheck at the end of the month? He really looks forward to give you a paycheck. Whereas if you don't go collect it, he will come running after you, he'll come knocking on the door. Hey, your paycheck. Don't forget, okay, next time. I'll tell you what he's keen on. He's keen on making sure that he gets your work. You're the one who's keen on making sure that you get your paycheck. He doesn't enjoy paying you. He enjoys getting you to work for him. You enjoy the paycheck. So you've got to take something that he doesn't want to give. You have to give something that you don't want to give. You'd rather spend your time at home with family, friends. Enjoy yourself. Not go be at work. But these two things have to exchange. So whenever you're looking for happiness on this side, typically, I'd say 9 times out of 10, even 10 times out of 10, you have to take something from someone, and usually they're not happy about that. That's why there's competition. Isn't there so much competition going on in the world out there? Competition. See, there's no competition on this side. There's no competition, zero competition on this side. If for your child to come first in class, right, and if there are another 30 children in the class, they must all become anything but first, right? So there's competition. See, at our school, at the monastery, we don't rank our students. There's no ranking. We don't rank at the end of term tests. Who's first, who's second, who's third. We don't rank them. Because we understand that our competition is only with ourselves, not with the person next to us. What we encourage is for everyone to be a better version of themselves tomorrow. If you're good today, become better tomorrow. Better than whom? Nah. You are your only challenge. Solve it. No competition with anybody else. You know what happens when there's competition with others? Here's what happens. You are reluctant to help them. When there's competition with others, you're reluctant to help them. Just imagine two people who are applying for the same job. Just imagine that. Right? Only a saint, don't you think, would help the other person to make sure that their application was in order, they had all the certificates, right? All the resumes were written properly, right? And made sure that they were prepared for the interview. Just imagine one person goes into the interview, they've now had the interview, right? And the other guy has the interview the following day. How many people might be willing to go and support that person, say, these are the kind of questions you might get at the interview. This is fantasy, isn't it? What I'm just describing here. I had my interview today, you're going to have yours tomorrow. After my interview is done, I come up to you and I say, this is the kind of questions you might get. Prepare yourself. Where would that happen? It cannot happen because there's competition. For one person to win, another must lose. That attitude, that kind of attitude, ladies and gentlemen, is poisonous to Nibbana. That's why we don't have that at the school. At our monastery, nowhere do we have do we encourage that attitude? Because it's poisonous to Nibbana. It's venomous to Nibbana. Toxic. The I must win, another must lose, because again you're talking about what? I, he, she, they. Once again we start talking about entities. That's why we don't encourage that. But the child that the school that your child goes to, they have to talk about competition. At the workplace, there's competition. Even among siblings, what is there? Competition. Even among siblings, there's competition in the world that we live in today. Come on. Two people who share the same womb. Sometimes you might, you've got to be, you got to think, thankfully they weren't twins who were born at the same time. Otherwise, one twin might even consider coming out alone and having a miscarriage with the other one. Competition. Just so that they get all of the mother's love. And it is not split between the two of them. See now, if you're in a family with 2 or 3 children, usually excuse me. Do you never hear these kind of conversations where a child comes up to you and asks you, Ammi, don't you love Ayya more than me? Why do you love Akka more than you love me? Why do you love Nangi more than you love me? Right? These kind of conversations you tend to hear in homes where there's more than one child. They cannot be happy with that. They can't rejoice in that. See, the Ayya, the elder brother, cannot be happy about the fact that the mother shows love to the younger brother. Because such love should be shown towards me, not him. I don't mind as long as I get equal. But if there are times where he gets more than I do, there's a problem. I have to protest. So the elder brother goes and protests. Now, just think about yourselves. in your own families. Excuse me. If you were one of siblings, and if you had siblings, you might remember conversations at home where you used to talk amongst with your parents who your mother or father loves more. And that might have worried you a lot, troubled you much. Let's say you are the darker one and she's the fairer one. Maybe the darker one goes, do you love Akka more because she's fairer? That's why she's Sududu. I am Kalu. These are things that people pick up. Why? Because in society, there is such a discrimination. Yeah, parents, can I give you a friendly piece of advice? A friendly piece of advice. Try and avoid calling your children Suduputa and Sududu. If you can. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you completely, cause turmoil at home. I'm just suggesting if you can, right? Because every time you refer to your children as Suduputa and Sududu, or something with those words, you're putting into their minds that Sudu is somehow a very valuable thing to have. Sudu meaning fair. Now, even if your child is dark in complexion, typically parents say, Amma Suduputa, Amma Suduputa. Then they begin to have this feeling of inferiority. And Sudu becomes somehow far more valuable than Kalu. So complexion now begins to play a part in this internal battle. And even as they grow up, they think that to be fair, that is the ideal state to be fair. Not fair as in fair and square, fair as in fair in complexion. They grow up thinking that is the ideal. That is what I must strive for. So then you can't blame them after that. They go going for all these cosmetics and try to become lovely. You know what and lovely. Yes. Skin bleaching and all sorts. Then they start to do that. It starts at home. It really does. So which one's better, dark or fair? Exactly. But you don't normally call your Buddha Kaluputa. Come here. Ko Kaludu enna. You don't say that, right? Even if she's Kalu, you say Sudu. What I'm saying is, subtly, without your knowledge, you're putting this drushti in your children's minds. That it is better to have been born Sudu. And then they grow up thinking, I wish I were. I wish I were. I wish I was as fair as my sister. I wish I was as fair as my brother. These are things unbeknown to you. These dynamics, they work in the mind. And then society helps a lot to further emphasize these points, right? And to make people feel even more so with all these adverts and everything that's going on on the TV. There's always a natural tendency towards fair complexion. I don't know why that is, but it's just the way society is. It's always been like that. I can't undo it. I can only just explain to you that this is going on in society. Try and save your children, because at that very young age, they're very susceptible to whatever you plant into their heads. So if you start calling your children Suduputa and Sududua, regardless of their complexion, if actually they're fair, it's not too bad. But if they're not fair, particularly fair, and you start calling them that, they going to think that to have been born fair is what my mother wanted. She wanted me fair, but I'm not. It's better to even say Rattaramputa. That's better. Rattanam is golden. That is the word we use when we talk to children affectionately, right? But when you start using this complexion and the words related to that, that can become a problem. Just friendly advice. So what's going on here now? Before we got sidetracked. Nicca sukha atta. All these emotions up here. We were talking about why does the mind have a desire to perceive? Nicca. I'll try and explain what these things are. But actually we should be spending more time talking about this. This is only for the sake of completeness. Okay, I will have a stab at explaining these things to you. But actually they need no explanation, no introduction, because that is what you've always been bearing as true. So this is kind of like teaching you to suck eggs here. You can teach me better than I can teach you what Nicca sukha anatta, albeit they're complete lies. It's not the truth. But anyhow, Nicca. Nicca is tendency to be biased towards something. It's the tendency to be biased towards something. I'll give you some. Let's look at an example. Can you see this from the back? What is that? What letter is that? Sorry? Oh no, you can't see it. It's M. Right, you can see it, okay? What do we have here? No. Keep something simple. Okay, what do you see now? What letter can you see on the board? B. Yeah? It's just B, plain simple B, isn't it? Not simple B, capital B, but it's just plain and simple B. Simple capital B. Does it feel like it belongs to something? Not yet, it doesn't. It doesn't feel like it belongs to something. It's just on its own, it's just a lone letter, right? What is this? A. Does that belong to anything? No. Seemingly not. What is this? This one? G. Does it belong to anything? No. Although you say no, there's a voice in the back of your head going, yes, 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 yes. Because you've already formed a word out of these three letters, haven't you? Yes. So now that you see these three letters, actually you're only not calling it a word because I've not placed them in close proximity to each other. However, if I move them like that into each other's effect field, we talked about the effect field the other day, if you remember, right? Presence and the concept of being in each other's presence. See, right now they're not in each other's presence. This alone is also not in each other's presence, and this is also not in anyone's presence. So if you imagine this, that's B's field of effect. Can you see from the back what I've just drawn there? These are concentric circles. I've drawn some circles around the B, okay? And A, I've done the same. G, I don't want them to intersect, not for now. Okay, so these lines, they don't intersect. So there's nothing in each other's effect fields. These are the effect fields. But now if I shift this A up here, along with that, what moves? Its effect field. So what was here is now here, okay? And then, if I did the same with G, can you see what's happening? Yeah, so they're coming into each other's. They're coming into each other's effect field. I'm using this because these things don't stick on this board. So we're going to have to do with this. See, someone very kindly donated this. Say sadhu sadhu. Because they knew I was struggling to use these always arrive. For the last few weeks they've been arriving on the desk, but I've not been able to use it up here because they don't stick. At least that's what I've been told. No, they don't stick. So someone's been very kind and offered this, so now we can all make use of it. Now, what do we have here? B is in the effect field of A. So they're all in each other's effect field. So B is in the effect field of A and G. A is in the effect field of B and G is in the effect field of B and A. The truth is, that is all they are in each other's effect fields. You could say that they're in each other's presence. Not this presence. Remember that conversation? This presence. They're in each other's presence. Present is not the word. Presence. They're in each other's presence. However, by this point, don't you feel that they belong to something? Isn't B biased? Isn't B biased? Can't you see B's bias now? What is B's bias? B's bias is towards bag. See, B has a bias towards bag. So now if I take this B out, whose B have I just taken out? What does your mind tell you? Whose B? Bag's B. I've just removed bag's B. I did warn you, this is going to be subtle. So, attention. Listen attentively, you can understand it. You will understand it, don't worry. You can. But in essence, all it is in each other's effect fields. That's all. That is all that's going on. B has no idea that A and G are here. If B could think, right, B would not have any awareness that A and G are here. It just happens to be, almost coincidentally, or let's say incidentally, that B is in A's and G's effect fields. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to understand that that is all that's going on here. There's no bag forming here. There's no bag forming here. All that's going on here is B has come into A's effect field and G's effect field. A has come into each other's effect field and B, so actually they've come into each other's mutual effect fields. That's all that's going on. But the mind likes to think something else. It perceives a completely different picture. Here's what your mind thinks, that this B belongs to bag. It's part of bag. It feels that there's some kind of ownership, some kind of affinity. That this word's B. See, the mind will tell you that now, because we are so used to doing crosswords. That's where we get some of this experience from. Because when you do crosswords, what are you supposed to do? Either you fill in the blanks, or what are those other things where you spot those words patterns? That's also crosswords, is it? Are those crosswords? Word search. Word search, right? Word search, yes. So when you do word search, what do? You look for bias. You look for affinity. You look for entities. That's what you look for when you do word searches. Our minds are very well trained for this because Nitya, Sukha, Anatta is all we see. We've always seen the world through that lens. So here's what Nitya is then. Nitya is your perception or your understanding, bad knowledge. This is bad knowledge. Your knowledge, okay, this is your bad knowledge that B has a bias. What is the bias? Bias towards bag. So two things I've just said there. One, the fact that B has a bias. Two, that it's towards bag. Those are two separate facts. One is Nitya, the other is Sukha. This is the entity. Bag is the entity. I'm not saying that a bag is an entity. I'm just using an example here. Okay? In this example, this word is an entity. At least that's what the mind thinks. Your minds think that this word is an entity. That's why you take it as one unit. And these are components of that unit. You'll call it constituent components. Now think about the United States of America. They're the United States of what? Of America. So can't you see Nitya, Sukha and Anatta there? What is the Sukha there? America. The whole thing. But those are just states. You know, these states, they don't know that they're part of America. Do you think Washington knows that it's part of America? What about Kansas? They don't know that they're part of America. It's only by convention has man put a border around all of it and said, now that is America. Actually, they're not United States. This has no political undertone, okay? By any means. There are no elections going on, right? I just have to be careful. No political undertones here at all. I'm just trying to get a point across to you. If you don't like that, let's go to Great Britain. So when you have the United States of America, okay, what part of it is united? Please don't take this the wrong way. They're very much united, right? They're all holding hands, right? Singing together, dancing together, eating together, and having jolly good time, right? All of them, I'm sure they are. This is not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm just trying to explain to you is if you just take the land, the geographical territory, right? That geographical territory, do you think that each state knows or is aware that it's a part of America? Do you? No. One fine day, actually that'll be a pretty bad day, if you were an American, let's assume that there was for some reason, some political reason, they decided to tear the country up in two parts. Okay, so all they'd have to do is take a map, right? Erase that line that says United States of America. You'd have to erase that line and then draw another line. Usually, it would typically be around the states, right? But those states in themselves could be re-demarcated. Yeah, they don't have to have that shape. You can redo them because there's nothing physical, is there? Where do you draw the line between Pakistan and India? I'll tell you what, if you dig a hole in Pakistan, right, just dig a hole in Pakistan, and then dig across, okay, tunnel across. Can you tell me when you reach India? As you keep tunneling underneath the surface, right? Let's say you don't have to go that far. Let's say 10 meters under the soil. And now you're tunneling from Pakistan in the direction of India. Can you tell me when it's India? Why not? Because you're not Indian, that's why. Huh? That is because you're not Pakistani, that's why, right? Otherwise you will feel like, I'm not home anymore. Huh? Now this feels foreign soil. Huh? Foreign lands. Are you going to feel that way? So does the earth appreciate these differences that we human beings have somehow come up with? No. Shall I tell you the funniest part of this story? If you take the globe, right, drain it of all its water, what do you have now? Just one massive piece of land, like an eaten apple. If you take an apple and just eat it from all the sides and just leave its core, right? Now it resembles that, don't you think? It's because of the water you see all these separations. Right? So India is separate to Sri Lanka and the Maldives and so on. That's because you see this water that divides these nations. But underneath, you don't even have the continents. Even the continents are connected to one another. So where's the separation, I ask you? Nature doesn't support separation, ladies and gentlemen. Nature doesn't support separation. Separation can only exist in the ignorant mind. So these provinces that we have in our country, I'm not suggesting that for administrative purposes we must not have them, right? Have them all you like. If that is not enough, split them up anymore. I have no problem with that. But what I'm saying is we must all understand that these are only conventional separations. It's not worth fighting for. Or worse than that, killing another for. But that's what people are doing out there. If one country wages war with another because they want to take that country as part of their own, all you have to do is dig deep and then you'll see that they are already part of the same nation. These are all superficial separations. But people don't appreciate that because they are far too ignorant. Trying to entertain the cells that they fabricate within themselves. And therefore, like I said, this is why people don't have world peace. Because they have not heard this message, the message of peace. Right, come back to this. This whole thing, your mind immediately sees this as one unit. Bag is a unit. Not a bag. Bag, the word is a unit. It's an entity. In your mind, it's an entity. Because it's an entity, you feel that these are components of that entity. If I took this away, you'd say, can I have my A back? Why? It's the bag's A. In fact, if I lay this like this, don't you feel a bit uncomfortable? If I put this A down here like this, does that not feel a bit awkward? What would you do if you had a choice? Just imagine, at the end of the sermon, I lift this board down here. It's time for you to worship Swami Nonsa and leave. I'm sure at least one of you will come up here, and you don't even have to be OCD for that. Because you feel that this has to be here because this is bags A, not just any old A, it's bags A. This is what I mean. You feel that these have biases. They have affinities, a sense of belonging, whereas actually they don't. Whether here or in your hand or back in the tray, A does not protest. As I try to take it away, A doesn't say, hey, put me back, put me back, put me back, put me back. No. I just checked. No. Only your mind says that. If I put it, just move it like this, a little bit lower than it's not aligned, your mind now screams out, saying, Swami, can you move it up a little bit? Yes, a little bit, yes, little bit more, little bit. Too much. See, your mind screaming out loud. Because you see an entity and everything should fall in place to complete that entity. This is because this whole thing is a sukha in your mind. A sukha. Sukha is not happiness, which in contradiction to what you might find in the dictionary. The dictionary definition of sukha would typically be happiness, delight. Okay? Whereas dukkha is typically defined as suffering. I'm not talking about suffering and happiness here. I'm talking about aggregations. If you see that this is a dukkha, not dukkha, a dukkha. Forgive me for making that emphasis, but I'm trying to make that emphasis to get the concept into your head. It's a dukkha, meaning it's an aggregation, meaning it's a formation driven by need, necessity. Remember the old saying? What is the mother of all invention? Necessity. This dukkha is driven by necessity. See, these letters were in this tray a moment ago. There was some external necessity that came into this environment which picked those letters, put them on the board, and put them and aligned them with each other. That was an external necessity. That necessity came from here in this instance. If that necessity hadn't been there, these letters would have been doing jolly well in this tray. But here's what we must understand. This is only a product of necessity. It's not an entity. Meaning B, A, and G have no agenda, have no desire, have no intention, have no purpose, have no hidden motive to remain here. If I take this B, put it in G and put it in the tray and leave it like this and come back the following day, at night, when no one's watching, G is going to come back and crawl onto the board. Because G wants to be here. Is that so? Of course not. G has no desire to be here. That's why we say G is anicca, not nicca. Icca is an expectation, a tendency, a bias, an affinity. Does that make sense? Wanting to be part of something. This G has no desire to be a part of anything, which is why I could make any other word with it. That's not you, by the way. See? See how easy that was? No protest from G. Just imagine if G protested. G was doing fine just here, right? I want to now make another word. And if I try to put G, come on. Like when you have to take your kid out of the playground. Or get them to stop watching TV and go do their homework. Or like Monday morning when you have to go to work. And to get out of bed. Huh? Come on, go to work. No, 5 minutes more, please. G has no such purpose, no motive, no desire, no affinity, no bias. It's happy to be put wherever, and here's even more. It doesn't even mind being like this. Or like this. Or like this. Doesn't mind, doesn't care. Because this is not made of ignorance stuff. There's not a modicum of ignorance in this, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, it has no attachment, no desire, no bias, no tendency to be a certain way. No bad knowledge here. Therefore, you can use this however you want. You can use this however you want. This is equanimous. Upeksha. No apeksha. No expectations. No desires, no wanting, no agenda, no motive. Use me as you may. Can't you hear it say? Use me as you may. See, that is the nature of an arahant. Use me as you may. Nature is like that. You take some water, you put it into a cup. Does the water protest? You put it into another cup in a different shape. Does it protest? Remember we did that experiment some time ago? We took some water and we shoveled it around the different containers. And that was the day I talked to you about dukkha and how water is quite happy to take the shape of the container, meaning it is necessity that drives a certain formation. The stuff that is in there has no desire. It's passive. It's neutral. Okay? You must be able to see the neutrality of G. So much so that it doesn't even want to be G. See? It's not G anymore. Where was that gone? Where's that guy? Ah, yes. What was this again? What's this? W? Sure? What if we got one letter of your name wrong? That would hurt. But you see, W doesn't even mind being something else. W doesn't protest. It doesn't say, hey, I'm W, hold me right side up. Not that way down, this side up. Come on, do it right, otherwise put me away. No protest. It doesn't even wish to be W. So that lack of bias is anicca. Then to have bias is what? Nicca. So what has bias then? Do any of these letters have bias? Any of these things, do they have bias? Does the S have a bias to the song? O, N, O, G? Do any of these have a bias? Is that their life's purpose? To form the word song and nothing more? Is it its life's purpose? No, it doesn't. It's not. Therefore, we can come to the conclusion that none of these parts have a motive, have a purpose, have an agenda, right? Have an affinity or a bias or a tendency. Therefore, they are anicca. Na icca. There's no icca, no icca. What is the Sinhalese word for disappointment? The proper word? Ichcha? Ichcha bhanga. Bhanga is to destroy, to fall, to fail. That is bhanga. Ichcha then is desire, expectation. These characters, they have no desire. Which is why you can shuffle them around, move them here upside down, take them out, put them back on, and they will be just fine. See, O is as comfortable as it is here when it's here. And here, and here, or even here, or even back there. Are you the same? Where are you most comfortable? You have an answer to that question. There's a place you call home. That's where you're comfortable. Tell me, where is home to S? Where's home? Everywhere. When they say home is where the heart is, what it means is it's where you're comfortable. It's where you're naturally comfortable. S is naturally comfortable wherever you put it. You might have an S in your name, but that S is more comfortable than you. That is because S has no ignorance, either about itself or the other parts that it works together with. Whereas you have. Who's the only person your husband should say, I love you to? I mean, why is it wrong to go around telling everyone else that he loves them as well? I mean, love is to be shared with everyone, isn't it? We love, we care, we share, right? Wouldn't it be a much more nice world if everyone just loved everyone? But you're not happy with that. Because that love should only be directed towards you. Just like, unlike S. Unlike S. Unlike any of this. So, what is anicca then? What is nicca rather? Nicca is this biased nature. It's when you look at this, you think that B has a bias towards bag, A has a bias towards what? What? Still bag. And G again towards bag. Because you can see an entity. Actually, you can't see the entity. Your mind perceives an entity. What can you actually see through your eyes? Here's what we call an aggregation, a dukkha. This is an aggregation. These are, what is an aggregation after all? How do you define an aggregation? An aggregation is a coming together, isn't it? To aggregate is to total, to sum something, sum something up, is to aggregate, right? So, see, this, the presence of that, the presence of this, and the presence of this. The sum total, the aggregation of these three parts is the aggregate. That is all there is. Each one in the presence of another. That's why they're in each other's mutual presence. And not what? Not intrinsically part of this. They're not intrinsically part of this. This has no identity. This has no identity that says, I am part of bag. I shall not be used for anything else. But you have that identity. See, you call yourself Sri Lankan, you call yourself English, you call yourself British, you call yourself American, you call yourself whatever. That is your identity. This has no identity. You can use it however you want. And to this G, now when you think of you in the family, let's say that's you, hubby, and baby. Right? So that's the three of you. Where is your family? just here. To this bag, this G, anyway is family. I could use it to make just about any other word and it'll be just fine. See, it's family here, family here, family here, family everywhere. Because it's comfortable anywhere. So then dukkha is the aggregation. What is the sukha then? Is when the mind thinks that this is an entity. Can you see that your mind's doing that trick right now? Yeah? See, I've proved it to you with several examples. When I move this, like turn this on a bit in that direction, turn it diagonally, you will tell me, Swaminathan, it's a bit crooked. Can you straighten it up, please? Why? What's wrong with that? Because the rest of the letters, which are part of this, which is the word, right? They are vertical. Therefore, this also has to be vertical. Because you're somehow giving this a part in this entity. So that is the sukha. So then atta. Atta means this is separate to the next word. So let's put another word then. I'm trying to make up a word that has the same letters, but reassembled is another word. Yes, we have one. We have one. This is a very, 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 very separate word, isn't it, to this. Very, 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 very separate, isn't it? Got you again. It's not. See, all that change was the arrangement. The only difference between this and the previous word is in its arrangement. Nothing more, right? Nothing more than that. It's just an arrangement. And that is how you could see. You can do this all day long. Now then tell me, does W belong to one or now? Which one does it belong to? Which one does it belong to? That's what I mean. It has no bias. But the moment you see this word, and now I take the W out, you are going to tell me, Swami, can you put the W back, please? I need my one back. You've just taken the W of the one. That's what you tell me, like the United States of America. You're looking for integrity, territorial integrity. That's your mind playing tricks, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to identify this. Figure this out. This is what it does here. This is what it does there. This is why you see males and females. Right? The same concept. Here's a male. Here's a female. Do you disagree? Are you not the same stuff? Ladies, are you not the same stuff that men are made out of? No, I won't say anything. You're waiting for me to say something. I won't. Gents, are you not the same stuff the ladies are made out of? Don't you eat from the same pot at home? Or you eat the same food at home? Right? But how come you look different? We talked about this many, many, many months ago when I showed you that video of you eating chicken. I'll bring it again another day. How you eat chicken, and then in your digestive system, your DNA gets to work on the amino acids and reassembles them and makes human proteins. So at what point, I asked you this question, I remember, at what point do you stop being chicken? Or the food stops being chicken and becomes human? Yeah? Because what is a chicken protein? Amino acids arranged in a particular order. Then, if you separate them, split them up, using your enzymes, you split them up, reassemble them, and now you get human flesh. So at what point was it chicken, and at which point does it become human? Your sense of artha, this nitya sukha artha, bad knowledge, your bad knowledge always pushes you to think that it went from being chicken to human. Because it likes to see separate entities. Just like here you're thinking now went to one, or one became now. Neither of those two things happened. All that happened was a change in arrangement. You could ask me this question though, Swaminathan, when you arrange these letters, don't you get a different word though? Are you suggesting, Swaminathan, that one is the same as now? So for instance, wherever I have to write the word one, can I also write now? No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. But what I want you to understand that is that there is no separate entity called one. This is merely, what is this merely? Each of these letters in the mutual presence of each other, which gives an effect. That effect we have a name for. We have a name for that effect. That name is one. What is this? What is the name for this effect? Is this not an effect? Is this not an effect? What is its name? See, we don't have a name for this effect. Perhaps in another language, maybe they do. We only give names to useful effects. Perhaps if it's still not in the dictionary, later on, this might be introduced to the dictionary, and then they will have a definition for this word. By having a definition, it qualifies to have a name. Actually, one is not, this is not one. This is the name that you have given to this arrangement. One. Otherwise, why don't you call it WON? Can you understand what I can understand? Why don't you look at this and go, this is WON? Why do you call it one? Because you have given this a name. This is a sanya. You have given this arrangement a special name, a separate name, which is a different name to this. What do you call this? You don't call this were because it came from one. You call this W. Where's that U part? Where did that go when this came out? This is not WON, this is one. Where's the U part of W? How did that disappear the moment you put these two letters back there? Where did it go? Teriyama? Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to get across to you? See, what is this effect? Is this an effect, first of all? This is an effect, yes. Have you not given this a name? What name have you given this? W. Yeah, W. So it has two syllables, almost. Dub and Liu. Okay? So then, now we bring these two letters here. I haven't touched this. You choose to only take W from W. Where did the rest of it go? Where did the rest of it go? Why only W from W? See how unfair you are on W. It did nothing. It didn't move an inch. It's still the complete letter. Previously you gave it its full entitlement and called it W. Now you just stop at W. What happened? In the presence of other effects, right? In the presence of other effects, now there's a very different kind of effect. It's no longer just this effect which manifests. That's why they're called manifestations. That's why they call manifestations. See, this is called N. But you don't say wo N. Why not? I mean, technically that's what you should call it, right? Wo N. Or W1. This is the only letter that you have not been unfair to. O and again O. With or without the presence of the other two. But then aren't there some words you completely ignore them? Spell K-N-I-F-E. Huh? No, it's knife. Why are you being so unfair on K? Huh? This is what I mean. This name, this is just a name that you have conventionally come up with to call this arrangement. So this is not one then, is it? This is still well and truly W, O, and N. But in each other's mutual presence, you have now come up with a different name, a separate name, because this has some conventional use for you. This has some utility, which you might not do with, see, this you have. This you have another name. But this is still not in the dictionary. To not be in the dictionary means you still have no use for it. That's why it's not in the dictionary. But the day this comes into the dictionary, or finds its place in the dictionary, on that day, this won't look weird to you. But right now it does. It feels incomplete. Do you see how effects work? These are not entities. So, just as it is true in this case, the same can be said about everything else in this world as well. Is it 11:15? Okay. Let's recap quickly. Miccha, sukha, artha is good knowledge or bad knowledge? Bad knowledge, well done. Miccha is bias. You can see that in this example. You feel that these letters are biased towards this word. Yes? Yes. This word you take as an entity, which is the sukha characteristic. Good knowledge or bad knowledge? Still bad. Still bad. Because none of this is true. These are all things that are going on in your mind, not out here. Please understand that. This bias that you see is not happening here. It's only in your mind. The entity that you see that is one is also not happening here. It's also in your mind. Then, finally, atta, the fact that this is an entirely different thing to this, is also not happening here. That's also in your mind. So, Nitya, Sukha, Atta are where? Where are they? Only in the mind. Because only minds can be ignorant. Nothing else in this world can be ignorant. Nothing else in this world has the ability to be ignorant. Only the mind can be ignorant because only the mind can hold bad what? Knowledge. Only the mind can hold bad knowledge. So that is Nitya, Sukha and Atta. Right. So what's good knowledge then? Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. So what is Anicca then? Unbiased. Now you must be able to see it through this word. N has no bias. If you put it this way, that's Z, isn't it? Yeah. See? N doesn't even want to be N. It doesn't mind being something else. It doesn't mind. Completely, utterly, no problem at all. That is because it has no bias to be a certain way. to take a certain form, no bias at all. So that is the anicca-ness, the anicca characteristic. That characteristic, ladies and gentlemen, actually exists in the outside world. Can't you see? That characteristic, the characteristic of anicca, actually exists in the universe. It's not just in the mind. Whereas nitya, that's only in the mind. That's not to be seen in the outside world. Because the outside world cannot be ignorant. The outside world, there cannot be bad knowledge. Bad knowledge can only be born by a mind, and when it's in that bad knowledge state, we call it a state of ignorance. Got that distinction? Excellent. So here then, we have anicca. Okay, then what is dukkha? An aggregation. This is not an entity. This is merely each of these causes in each other's presence. I have turned them, twisted them, shuffled them, done all sorts, just to prove that point to you, and hopefully the penny has dropped. So this is just an aggregation. That is why it's called a dukkha. So what changed the aggregation? How did it shuffle? What was the driver? Exactly, necessity was the driver. This will always be now until necessity comes from the outside, external to this, and then changes the arrangement. That always has to be external. Because this itself has no necessity. So if you leave it like this, it will be like this till the end of time. You might say, no, Swaminatha, this is going to get, it's going to fragment, it's going to get really old, and it's going to wither, and it's going to fall. Yes, again, external forces. Wear and tear, whatever. But these letters themselves, they have no desire to rearrange themselves because they're comfortable like this. When do you shuffle yourself in bed? So after you lie down in bed, don't you normally choose the most comfortable posture when you lie down? So why do you shuffle yourself again after a while? It becomes uncomfortable, right? Maybe you find yourself sleeping on your arm, right? Or there's no blood supply to some part of your body, and then you shuffle yourself to make yourself comfortable. Whereas this is quite comfortable. It does not begin to feel uncomfortable. So it does not shuffle itself, to make another word, just because today is Sunday. It doesn't do that. It doesn't get bored of being one. It doesn't get tired of being one. It doesn't need to change the channel. But how long can you keep watching the same channel? You have to change it. So you get bored, you get tired, because there's necessity coming from inside. There's no necessity inbuilt, no intrinsic necessity. Therefore, there is no need for it to be like this. Then, the only reason it is like this is because this is an aggregation. That is what dukkha is. Got that? Okay, finally. Atta. Good knowledge or bad knowledge? Atta is bad knowledge. Atta is bad knowledge. Atta is the thinking. It's always the thinking, because why do I say it's the thinking? Because it cannot be anywhere else. It's only in the mind. It's the thinking, it's the bad knowledge that these words are separate. They are standalone, they're separate words, and this is a very different word to this one. That's separation, separateness, uniqueness. Uniqueness. What does your identity card say? That you are a unique individual. There's a lovely Sinhalese word for this, ananyata. Ananyata is uniqueness. What is ananyata? Anya, meaning different to the other, different to others. That is what identity is. Uniqueness. Your sense of uniqueness is atta. Whereas what is anatta? Anatta is, there is nothing unique. Everything is just the same stuff rearranged. All you have in this world are arrangements of the same stuff. So, who is superior, blacks or whites? Men or women are superior? Hmm? The fully abled or the disabled? Homosexuals or heterosexuals? Which ones are superior? That's the thing. Indians or Pakistanis? Don't answer that. There will be no sermon from here on. But do you see, when people think, when they conceive, right? When they conceive uniqueness, when they conceive attha, when they conceive entities, when they conceive biases, do you see what happens? The whole world is at war. One small place it went wrong, and now it's a volcano of problems. See? One small place. Anicca dukkha anatta became nicca sukha, that's it. Everything stems from that bad knowledge. Tell me, what refuge does the world have if not Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha? What refuge? So which religion is superior then? Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Zoroastrianism? Which one is superior? Nonsense, ladies and gentlemen, nonsense, utter nonsense. There can't be two truths. There's only one truth. That has nothing to do with religion. Did I teach you a religion today or did I teach you a science? You be the judge of that. Did I tell you, if you have faith in the Buddha, is this going to work? Everyone else get up and leave the room. Did I say that? Did I tell you, you shall believe what I say, if not? Did I say that? No. This is open to your intellectual study, your intellectual examination. I haven't said anything that you have to take by blind faith. Nothing, not a single word. If you're intelligent, if you can pay attention, if you can understand, anyone can understand. Though did you not understand what I explained today? See, that's, simple examples. We all know the alphabet. It's not complicated, subtle. It's only subtle because we've never heard this before. We've never looked at the world through this lens before. We've always seen separation. That is what was always drilled into our heads. Separate. We are separate, they are separate. That is a different nation to us. We don't talk about them, we don't talk about that. Right? We are two nations. Divide, separate. Divide and conquer. The thing is this, even when we start saying, right, they are different, we are different, let's all work together, it's still promoting separation. When people ask for an equal platform for blacks and whites, that's still promoting separation. Why? Because there are blacks and there are whites, now let's put them on the same platform. It encourages separation. But it also encourages equality. You only have to make two separate things equal. See, here's a formula. You don't have to say this, do you? X equals X. You don't have to say X equals X. But you might have to prove that X equals Y. Remember math? That's cool. You never had to prove that X equals X. You never have to say the same thing equals the same thing. But when two things are different, now you have to try and bring them to the same level. That's what people are doing out there. Equality. By talking about equality, by promoting equality, what they're actually doing is promoting separation. When we talk about men's rights, women's rights, and how they should have the same rights, again, you're promoting separation. So what do you say? Should now have the same rights as want? Don't you see it's a joke? That's why this whole world is a big fat joke. It's just a bunch of jokers. You've got to come out of that now. You've got to come out of that. All these gimmicks, you've got to come out of that. That is what the Buddha wanted for all of us. Not to be deceived by all these jokes that jokers do. We don't have anything against them, we have empathy towards them because I was once the same. So I understand how it must feel to think that the world is all separate. I'm a Sri Lankan, right? And I'm a male person. I'm a this person, I'm a that person. But none of this is true. See, in this very sentence, you can see how, although the effort seems to be to try and unite, there is separation, right? Listen to me. Although we are blacks and whites, underneath our skin, we are the same blood. It seems like I'm trying to promote unity, but what I've just said is, although we are still blacks and whites, right? Under the skin, we are all the same color. Therefore, let's unite. Let's identify that they're all separate, but let's try and live together in harmony. So that is why, Buddhist, this philosophy that we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, it is not your average world peace concept that you've heard at the United Nations or some other place, right? This is a paradigm shift in thinking. It's completely on another level. This transcends all types of separation, discrimination, and you begin to see that everything is just the same thing. The whole world is just the same thing. If all there is just energy, if all there is just the same stuff, and then other differences that we see are merely differences in arrangement, that's it. Can I ask you this question? Take flour, sugar, butter, water, right? The same quantities, and make a bun out of it. Right? Just for argument's sake, we make a bun out of it. And let's say that bun has a certain number of calories. Let's say give you 100 calories. What do we just make? A bun. We take the same quantity of flour, sugar, butter, water, and we make a kimbula bun. What are they called? Crocodile buns. I'll make a croissant out of it. You make a croissant out of it. That is also 100 calories. Yes or no? If it's the same stuff, same quantities, it should be the same calories, right? The only difference is a difference in arrangement. So then here's the next joke, right? So this is the bun. This is the croissant. Okay. So now you want to fast. The doctor said you have to fast. Too much calories in your food, right? And you're used to eating your buns. So are you going to tell the doctor, okay, doctor, I understand. I'm going to stop eating buns from here on. I'm going to eat croissants because I want to fast from here on. Is it going to make any difference? Why not? Because it's the same stuff. The only difference is a difference in arrangement. That arrangement gives it its shape. That arrangement gives a different texture. That arrangement gives a different flavor. That arrangement gives a different color. All of that is driven by arrangement. Arrangement is what gives it all these characteristics. Nothing else. Just because the characteristics are different doesn't mean that it's a very different, separate entity altogether. It's the same calories. So either you eat this or you eat that. It's the same stuff that goes into your stomach, into your system. So if this is bad for you, this is also bad for you. So do we understand what good knowledge and bad knowledge is then? So today we've talked about Nitya Sukha Atta, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Right? So this is quickly recapping. This is bad knowledge. When the mind is with bad knowledge, we say that the mind is in a state of ignorance. Out of ignorance stems suffering. Right? And then when you suffer, you can relieve yourself of that suffering and experience pleasure. But please don't forget that that's all in this domain of Nitya Sukha Atta. Meaning you're still lost. Then we have Anicca Dukkha and Anatta introduced to us by the Buddha. The teaching is the Dhamma practiced by the Sangha. So if you practice Anicca Dukkha and Anatta, what are you? Sangha. That is what you are, Sangha. Only one who practices Anicca Dukkha and Anatta can be defined as Sangha. Why do they call them Sangha? Not Sangha. Sangha. I don't know about Sangha, but Sangha, yes, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Why do you call it Sangha? See, Sang is aggregation. Sang is aggregation. I'll give you an example. Sangeeta, Sansara, Sangbandha. Forgive me for throwing Sinhalese terms, but every one of these terms has a prefix. Sang, 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 sang. It all means to aggregate, bring together, combine, join. Sangha is to disperse. Gha is to disperse. So where we see entities, if you begin to understand that what this is an aggregation, and by understanding that aggregation, if you can disperse the aggregation, meaning whatever formation there is, if you can disperse such formations, right, then you stop being you. Jati requires Sangha. Jati is what gives you your sense of self, which is also a conditioned, not an entity, but a conditioned phenomenon, to which you can do Sangha. Once Jati has happened, then you remain as a Vipaka, the body. That is also an aggregation. But because karma doesn't happen anymore, at the end of that process, that also disperses. And then ultimately, Nibbāna is the ultimate goal. So, Nibbāna is another word for the unconditioned. Now don't ask, unconditioned what? Swaminathan said. Because I can't answer that question, can I? If you ask me, unconditioned what? Because if it's a what, it is conditioned. So a state of unconditionality, the state of being unconditioned is Nibbāna. That is how Sangha achieves Nibbāna. Now you can understand how that is possible, because Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta is the key that helps you figure out that what there is an aggregation. Therefore, if there's no necessity to perceive an entity, the mind then ceases to seek entities out of aggregations. Let me make sure that you're clear on that part before we conclude. This is what's there in the outside world. This is nature. This is not natural, right? This is only in the mind. But what happens, ladies and gentlemen? When you see an object, because the mind wishes to experience entities, can the mind all of a sudden make an entity out of it in the outside world? No. The best that the mind can do is leave the conditioned phenomenon in the outside world as is, but in the mind, fabricate an entity. So entities are all fabrications. You can fabricate an entity. That's what happens when the mind goes crazy. Crazy with desire to experience an entity, it has to create it, fabricate it. So then all entities are fabricated entities which only minds can experience. So when the mind wishes to experience that entity, a separate entity, a unique entity, that is what's happening within you right now, which is why you feel that you are an individual. Don't you feel that you are an individual? You have a name, you have an age, you have a gender, you have a personality. All of this is your mind's doing right now. Right now it's doing it. It's creating that entity within you. Whereas the truth is, you are no such thing. You are merely a bundle of energy, just a formation of energy, both body and mind. But in that mind, because that mind works with ignorance, ignorance demands the experience of an entity. Out of ignorance comes attachment for that entity. And out of attachment comes vexation, longing for that entity. And then the mind, helpless, goes into kind of like overdrive mode, goes into lunacy, crazy mode, and then it creates an entity out of it, just like when you dream. See, you know that the mind is capable of imagining things, right? That's how you know when you dream, things that you've never seen, you see in your dreams. So that means the mind is very much capable of creating stuff, imagining stuff. So the mind does the same when it imagines you up. You are just an imagination. So it imagines you up, and it imagines the next person up, and the person who's here with you up. All of these are imaginations of the mind. It does it because the mind vexes to identify with that individual. So when that happens, it sees, hears, smells, tastes, touches, and thinks. While those 5 sense organs bring in stimuli to the mind is busy creating, fabricating these entities, and therefore what happens when you see something, when you see this word, you can't help yourselves but see an entity of a word. It happens in your mind. That has no effect on the outside world, remember? Please understand that. It has no effect on the outside world. It's purely mental. That's why the day you become an arahant, you will still see this word, but you will understand that this is merely an aggregation. Each letter in each other's presence. You will not see it as an entity. You will not see yourself as an entity. You will not experience the person next to you as an entity. And when there are no entities to experience, the what if that we talked about, what if he dies? What if it's lost? What if this happens to her? What if she falls? What if she's destroyed? What if that is destroyed? See, destruction can only happen to an entity. Death can only happen to an entity. Breakage can only happen to an entity. Did I just break that word? Would you call that breaking? Would you call that breaking? No, right? But that is what your mind feels like I'm doing. I've just broken the word. You don't think that that is breaking, but if I take this and twist this, then you will say that I've broken this. Actually, the same thing is going on here. This is not breaking. Nothing can be broken. Why can't anything be broken? Because they're just in proximity to each other. Nothing is part of something else to break, ladies and gentlemen. Things can only break if they're all intrinsically part of each other. That's when things can be broken. Otherwise, you can't break anything. So breakage is also a mental fabrication. Therefore, death is a mental hallucination. You have never died and you never will. Now you can breathe easy. Swami Wahanse told us today that we are not going to die. That was one good Sunday sermon, wasn't it? In the absolute sense, there is no such thing called death. Death to you is only when the mind stops arising in this body. That is what death is. Nothing happens to you because there was no you for anything to happen to. A mind stops arising in this body, that's it. But when you think that that was your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your aunt, and there was a person there, so when they stop reacting to you, now you say they're dead. No, death didn't happen there. Death only happened in your mind. All that happened there was a mind stopped arising in that body. That's it. But we can't help ourselves from thinking that they're dead. So therefore you weep, you cry, you grieve. Jati paccaya marana. See, freedom from death is only to be found in this philosophy, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be free from death, look nowhere else. Look nowhere else, I promise you. There's nowhere else you can find an answer to death. The solution to death is only available in the Sásana. Right. I have a little video to show you. So these truths are now traveling the world in the form of monks and nuns, or anagarikas, if I may call them that. So recently there was a tour, two of our Swami Mahasajas, Mahindandru and Bhaktivedanta. And while they were in Sydney, they did a retreat, which I think they did for the second time. And it had been a very successful retreat. I think they'd done it over 2 days and 3 nights, or 2 nights and 3 days. So the retreat had been very successful. And so it has been requested from them to carry on doing a retreat, at least during one of their visits in the year. So they have made plans to, right? They have made plans to that. Now these days they're in the UK. So they have started this season's tour. And I was informed that another retreat has been organized in the UK for, I think it's next week. It's a 2-night, 3-day retreat. So if you have friends there, family who might like to take part in that, so they get to stay there, learn the Dhamma, be in that noble community, share thoughts, ideas, express themselves, ask any questions they might have. You've had this experience, haven't you? Yes. So we have first-hand experience. And now see, she's with us. So there's a retreat that's planned for next week. I just want to show you a video of this retreat that they did in Sydney, just to give you an idea of what this retreat entails, so that when you talk to people you know who are in the UK or will be in the UK at that time, they might be able to join and make the most of the Swami Wahanse's presence there. So please, if you may. Everyone's working really hard. Everyone. All of us. By us, I just don't mean us monks, but all of us, ladies and gentlemen. You know, after a very long time, we have come across the truth. And the truth is so liberating. You know this from your own experience. Once you begin to feel that every man and woman in this world is a brother and sister to you, then whatever good you get, you want to share with them. And that is what they're doing. Who does the truth belong to? Everyone, right? For some of those people, maybe that is the very first time in their lives they've had the chance to offer some pindapata. You get that you get it every Sunday. At least every Sunday. But for them, maybe that was the very first time in their life. But that opens the first door, which leads to the next, which leads to the next, and that to the next, and so on. Somewhere, someday, we've also offered one spoonful of food, alms food, to some virtuous, meritorious, dedicated nun or Swaminathan somewhere on our practice in samsara. And that is what has brought us these opportunities today to immerse ourselves in the Dhamma. Almost to the point where we take it for granted that we have this today with us. So we're all doing what we can. Now it's a case of let people know that this is happening. Because this is all voluntary. People have to volunteer to come and be part of that. You can't go after people chasing them, saying, hey, please, can you come to my retreat program? You can't do that. This is not inviting people to a party. So they have to have some interest, at least if it's your word, someone they trust, someone who has been in this process for some time, someone who knows the truths that they'll be talking about, then you can tell them that this is going to be something that's going to be life transforming. Try it once and see whether it works for you. We don't have any centers in those places yet, unlike the monastery or unlike the school that we have, which we get for free. Free for us doesn't mean free. Free means someone has to pay for it. But in those countries, we still don't have a place where we can do these things. So there may be a nominal cost to take part in that program. Still, it's not more than what you might pay at the restaurant for a night out. What do you get more happiness out of? A meal at the restaurant or wisdom? That's the thing. So if there are people you know, friends, family, and you feel that there may be someone who might be interested in studying the philosophy, that they have enough merits, if you feel that, to be given a chance, a fighting chance, then let them know that the program's there. We will share a flyer in our WhatsApp groups, so you can share it out with your associates. So that's happening. And I believe that's sometime next week. So not long to go now. I should have informed this to you earlier. Apologies for the short notice. But a lot had been planned and I was only informed last week myself. And how have any of you attended the Katina cloth weaving? Got a chance to do that? Give me a show of hands. Nice, good. So it's there till the 30th. If you get to go in the direction of the monastery, please make sure you stop there and take part in that meritable deed. Because you may have offered robes in the past, but perhaps you've never woven a robe in your life. So this is going to be one of those very unique, special opportunities you get to do that. And like I say, as you do it, contemplate anicca, dukkha and anatta. See, now we've talked about anicca, dukkha and anatta. Ask yourself whether any of those threads, the threads that you use to weave, ask yourself, does any of these threads have a bias? If you use that thread to weave some other cloth, would it resist? Would it protest? No. So it does not have a bias to be part of it or not to be part of it. No bias either way. If that is the truth about each of those threads, then all you have there is an aggregation that is driven by a necessity that has come externally. The threads themselves have no necessity. So it is the necessity of the weaver. The necessity of the weaver that has put those threads together. And then what is a cloth? Nothing more than the collection of those threads in very close proximity to each other. So if it's a strong piece of fabric, what you know then is that those threads are woven and interlaced around each other, which gives them that strength. It's nothing more than that. In each other's mutual Presence. So could you not take it out thread by thread and weave something else out of it? You could. That's why they're not entities. They're not separate things, merely arrangements of the same stuff. So every example you can think of is the same. It's the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. That's why your contemplation can happen anywhere. Come here to learn the Dhamma, but live the Dhamma outside of these four walls. Live the Dhamma outside these four walls. And one more thing I would like to say. You all know Maitri Handru. Most of you do. If you visited the monastery, you can't miss him. He's the fairest of them all. I have great respect for Maitri Handru because when he came, there was no one else who was like him, conventionally. You were the first foreign monk. I don't even like to use the word foreign because not after that sermon. What is foreign, after all, right? But conventionally, you got to understand it from his perspective, right? His parents and all that, his siblings and all that, they were willing to give their child to a place where there were none like him. Just imagine that. Just imagine that. And his greatest success story was this. Maitri Handru, back then he was called Mr. Daniel. He was known as the Anagarika with no complaints. No complaints. Nothing. Never. Not once had he complained about anything whatsoever. The other day someone had seen him using a really old pillow. It was like quite dirty as well. Very old pillow. Washed but still rough. He'd been using that for some time and not complained about it. So sooner his teachers saw it, he said, "No, my dear mother, why are you using that pillow? Get a new one." Well, if you are happy to give me one, then I'll take it. I don't want to take anything more than what the Sásana has already offered me. Sásana has offered me everything. I don't want a pillow again, was his answer. So he's this great man who has now become a Swami Nuhanse of ours. And so recently Maitri Handru started another series of sermons, as you might have seen. They have started appearing on our YouTube channel. So those sermons are happening at Royal Institute, which unfortunately is at the same time. We tried to have it at a different time to this, but due to availability at that school, we had to have it at the same time. So those sermons are also happening on Sunday from, I think, 8:30 to 10:30. Yes, 8:30 to 10:30. If you know people who live around that area in Havelock Town, isn't it? Havelock Town? Havelock Town. Around that area, then please pass the message, because if coming here is too much of a trek for some individuals, then that is also an option. It's all from the same pot. The Dhamma is the same, right? We all learn from the same teacher. So what Guru Handru teaches us is what we know. What Buddha Handru taught him was what he knows. So we all taught the same thing. But if there are those who are closer to Royal Institute, Havelock Town, then you can invite individuals to visit there. And we also have a Dhamma school at Royal Institute. Several of our Swami Mahansis and Anagarika Mahatmyas, they go and they teach the students at the Dhamma school. So we have quite a close relationship with Royal Institute. They were instrumental in supporting us to set up our own school at the monastery. It was very difficult to get permission to set up a school and institutionalize a school. Private schools were not being offered that opportunity, not certainly after a certain few years ago they'd stopped doing that at the ministry. But we were allowed to affiliate ourselves with another school, and Royal Institute was very kind to lend its hand and extend an opportunity. So since then we have been partners in this great mission. They do a lot more than just give us the opportunity to operate as a school. Many times they even send their teachers to our school to help coach our own teachers. Our students go there and they do their practical work, laboratory and things like that, because we don't have a lot of those resources at the monastery. Because, if we have somewhere we can do it, then we don't have to worry and burden our devotees to set up labs and so on separately. If we need it one day, we'll need it, but for now, we've managed just fine without it. But there's a lot of support that we get from our institute as well as from Gateway College. None of this would have been possible without the generosity of the management here. We all met here, didn't we? Practically. And this is our journey as Rajagirians. It all started here. These sermons started going abroad and across the globe from the gateway to Nibbana. So you can see, they're all doing a huge part. We're all playing a big part in this. You're all part of that mission, ladies and gentlemen. Take pride in that. Take joy in that and rejoice in that. Don't ask yourself how big or small a part you play. Just enjoy being a part of it. Every little helps. Every cog makes the whole thing turn. Every little cog. Doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to be small. Whatever your contribution is to the Sásana. Doesn't have to be monetary contribution. Your blessings, your well wishes, the knowledge that you share, a bit of advice, a bit of guidance, someone that you know you introduce, all of that. So recently I got to know with the Little Britain program that we are all doing at the monastery. So I got to know that one of you had introduced some organization to support our project. And so that was the first contribution. I think they donated just above $1 million or something to the project itself. It's a separate organization. But that came through your connections. That's why I said the very first day I talked about this, I said, it's not about what you have, because what you have, you've already offered to the Sásana. And you're there to support when the Sásana needs it. But there are those who have yet to give the first sadhukara, to give the first part of whatever they are to the Sásana, so that they can get tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000,000-fold from the Sásana. It's about creating those opportunities for others. And so I just wanted to share that with you, so you can rejoice in all this goodness that's happening around us. And one final piece. On the 1st of November, which is a Saturday, Maitri Hamza is going to do a German sermon. Not here. That is also going to be at RI. So it being a Saturday, we just wanted it to be a weekend so it was more accessible to many. So if you have any German-speaking friends, they don't have to be German, native Germans. As long as they speak the language, then they can attend. It's a free event, of course, right? Like, duh. It's a free event. And it's also going to be held at RI on the 1st of November. Again, the flyer for that we will share with the WhatsApp group. So if you know people, colleagues, friends, whoever, who is versed in German, please let people know. And he will be talking to them about the philosophy of happiness, but in German. These are assets that we have, truly. You know, that man, I envy him sometimes, right? He speaks German, he speaks Polish, he speaks Russian, he speaks English, he speaks Sinhalese now. Huh? How dare he? And Italian as well. Did I say French? I think French as well. He's truly a polyglot. Then we have another German gentleman at the monastery now. You might have bumped into him once or twice. Absolutely wonderful people. He speaks better Sinhalese than I do. Whenever you see him, speak to him in Sinhalese and you will be impressed. Even when we talk to him in English, he replies in Sinhalese because he says, Swaminathan, I want to practice my Maramake Sinhala Purdu enna. He replies in Sinhalese. No, you see, these are people who have already made home at the monastery. We didn't have to go very far to help them feel at home. They made home out of the monastery. And just amazing, amazing individuals. Somehow we have this some kind of special connection with Germany. I don't know what it is. Every other week we have students, German students, medical students who visit the monastery. You might have seen them as well. At least 6 or 7, or at least 10 of them Every other week they come in and they study the Dhamma. Coming from a medical background, they get these concepts very, very easily because they come from a science background. So both Maitri Thero and Mr. Felix, who looks after the most of them, majority of their group, they share what they have learned from the monastery and the truth. And somehow we have this very interesting connection with Germany. And sometime next year, Maitri Handra will be flying to Germany to take the Dhamma to our German brothers and sisters. So it happened sooner than we expected it, because there was an invitation from Germany. Because there's now a sizable audience in Germany who actually want to embrace the philosophy and they really enjoy the truth in the Dhamma. And so the invitation came from there. I didn't expect to send Maitri Handra away so soon, but it will happen either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. I will share it closer to the time. Finally, like I said, there's a lot going on and we are all working really hard. Enjoy every bit of it, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy every bit of it. Don't worry about whose hand is holding the umbrella. As long as there's an umbrella being held, rejoice in that. Take part. Invest yourself in the Sásana. Enjoy this while we can. The Sásana is not going to last forever. We are not going to last forever, right? So while we still have the beauty, the privilege of these two things coexisting at the same time, what a unique opportunity that is. Us and the Sásana existing at the same time, make the most of this and have a jolly good time. Right, let's do the merit transfer and bring today's sermon to. Let us all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired today by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, inviting everyone to come along, listen to the sermon, as well as creating a conducive environment for all to practice and understand the Dhamma, inviting the Swami Master to deliver the sermon as well as listening to it and making an effort to understand the profound truths. Let us first and foremost transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down through generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, as well as those who are present throughout the world who have made it their life's ambition and purpose to preserve and practice the Buddha Sásana. Let us transfer these merits to members of the Mahasangha, including the Mahanayaka Theras and the Anunayaka Theras of all of the chapters, who sacrificed life and limb to protect the sum of the Sásana and preserve it for posterity. Let us also take this opportunity to transfer these merits to my teacher, Guru Swami Mahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery and the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also transfer these merits to friends of the monastery, our devotees, who for the sake of merits to help them attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes all of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes and medicines, as well as pass on your know-how and continue to extend their well wishes. May they all rejoice in this merits, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers and our employees, as well as anyone and everyone who have helped us, supported us and assisted us in any way, shape or form. May they all rejoice in these merits. By the power of these merits, may they also be freed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to Devas and Brahmanas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the immense gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddha Sásana. Let us transfer this message to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to those who passed away in our name, our forefathers, our ancestors, Reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life and practice the path in peace and harmony. Let us transfer this message to members of the armed forces as well as the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the Sásana, as well as to give us the environment in which we can practice the path in peace and harmony. Let us also transfer this message to those who lost their lives in the wars, be they friend or foe, as well as those who lost their lives in natural disasters and calamities such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on. Reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will have all been mothers and fathers to us, friends to us, and therefore with an abundance of compassion, loving kindness, and a sense of gratitude for all that they have done for us, let us transfer this message to all. May by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may they redeem themselves, be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired today, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I and everyone who's helped make this program a success become arahatan vahanse or arahataran vahanse in this life itself and in this era of the Sambuddha Sásana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Rajagiriya Nibbāna Dveshagiriya Nibbāna Mohagiriya Nibbāna Nibbāna Parama Sukhayan Sukhita-tara vedva Nibbāna parama sukhayan Sukhita-tara vedva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayan Sukhita-tara vedva Nibbāna parama sukhayan Sukhita-tara vedva Nibbāna parama sukhayan Sukhita-tara vedva Rajagiriya Niveva Dveshagiriya Niveva Mohagiriya Niveva Nivan Sapaladeva Nivan Sapaladeva Nivan Sapaladeva Tunruange Suvisi Ananta Mahaguna Belin Silu Loka Silu Satyama Nibbāna Paramasukhen Sukhita-tara vedva Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.